Well, we're running a little late today. Maybe a lot late. So it goes. Sorry for the delay. But we're here now, and we can do some stuff. And let's get after it. Let's get some Visual Studio going. It's Tuesday, Inefficient Icon Inventory Day. Let's get that fired up. All right, where were we? Last week we were talking about, well, we did a lot of this stuff. Let's see, we can generate a new icon now in our org. We can support more colors. I think that UI needs some work, but it's better than nothing right now. I was thinking about bigger icons and how we might do that. Right now, I'm just waiting for my my extensions to load up here so we can actually get into this org. Maybe. Usually get a little button over here. I want to click it. Oh, this is silly. Okay, what's going on? Huh? Command not found. What you talking about? Working over here. Oh, there it goes. It's alive now. Oh, just a reminder that Forceopoly is going to be expiring later this week, so that's okay. We've got a good backup of that. All right. Let's see. Okay, get into our app and see what we got going on. A couple of examples in here. Last week we can create, what we're going to do. We wanted to expose some way to generate, create new icon, which is a flow, which we can open up. Find a way to tie this to some action. Where are you? Oh, wait. Did we write some code for this? I think we did write. We wrote a invocable for this. And let's see. Create icon pixels, and that fires after we create. So we just have to create a new icon record, tell it our dimensions, and it will give us a new one, or give us a bunch of pixels for it. All right, so what if we wanted bigger icons? This one's 96 by 96, and that is, what's the math? That's almost 10,000 icon, or 10,000 pixels, and every pixel is a record. So that's a lot of stuff. But what if we wanted to make it bigger? What if we wanted to do 256? And let me check my math on that. 256 by 256. That's 65,000 pixels. Or what if we wanted to make it a weird shape, like, I don't know, maybe 1,000 pixels wide and 200 pixels tall? That's a quarter. 250 pixels would give us 250,000 pixels to create. Obviously, we can't do that in real time. We're talking about async mojo at that point. So let's do that. Sorry, I had to let the dog out. 250,000 pixels. What would we have to do to go async in this function? Let's take a look at our service. Our icon service is what's doing the heavy lifting of creating pixels for us. If I imagine a landscape of pixels for an icon, 100 by 100, that's really pushing it. What if we thought in smaller quadrants, right? Or what if we wanted to create an icon that was 100 pixels wide, 1,000 pixels wide, and 250 pixels tall? We could just count, right? Potentially. We could just count our way through those. We're going to need a batch class for this no matter what. So I'm going to create a icon pixel batch. And we'll do some trusty Googling off to the side to remember what a batch interface looks like for Apex, because I can never remember. Do implement. We got to implement, and then we got to start, execute, and finish. Clean this up a little bit because I'm picky. So that's the context. Call this context all the way through. Okay, so here's a batch class waiting to do something for us. So what are we going to pass this batch class? We're going to pass it an icon. The icon that we're going to interact with. We're going to need, this has to be stateful, right? Because I think we need to keep track of, I think we're going to need to keep track of how we progress through this. Each execution of a batch job is considered a discrete transaction. If you want to maintain state, we need to make this stateful. Okay. And then I think we're going to want a couple integers here, right? So our current, say our current x and our current y. All right. So the kick here is we need to be able to loop over something else in our, well, let's see. What we need is the we need to iterate over not objects but something else. We need to iterate so that our so that we have enough of something to iterate over. Can we create? Can we create our? What do we need to pass the start method? Either a query locator. Can I return anything different from the start method? Or an iterable. Use an iterable to step through the returned items more easily. Well, that's not helpful. Custom count iterable. I don't know if I've ever done this. I don't know if I've ever done an iterable on in a batch. So here's what I'm thinking. I don't know if this is possible. What I want this batch to do, I need the batch to be able to iterate over the rows and columns that represent a big icon. So let's use 1000 by 250, so 250,000 pixels, right? What I want to do is what I need to do is be able to tell this to iterate over something that gets me to 250,000. So because I need this to run. I don't really need it to run that many times. That's the fun part, right? What I would love to be able to do is pass this I want to create a list, right? I want to create my own list of pixels in the start that has 250,000 records in it, and then loop over that. Now, how the heck do I do the iterable thing in a batch class? I guess that's the batch apex iterable example. Let's see. An iterable. I can return an iterable. If I returned an, let's see, if I built an iterable can be what? We could traverse over a list of anything, I think. A list of S objects. So, all right, let's get in trouble here, right? So we're going to return an iterable S object. I think we can steal our logic from here. So here's my theory. In my start function, I'm going to use my icon. I don't think I even need this current X and current Y. So this batch is going to assume that only one icon is passed to it. So that begs some other questions around, some kind of agent that checks to see what icons need this done to them and all that good stuff. But we'll get to that eventually. I'm going to have an iterable S object called pixels. Basically going to fill this with what I need it to, what values I need it to have. right? Okay, and then I'm going to return pixels. Then we're going to iterate over in the scope of this. I literally just want to insert scope within each of these. So that'll be 200 records at a time. I've already addressed them all. So they all have X and Y locations. I don't even need it to be stateful. I'm just creating the giant pile of 250,000 pixels in this case, and saying just go do inserts on them. And in our finish, let's give ourselves a to-do, check for another icon request. So I think what we'll do is put some kind of status on, like creation status or something like that on the icon object. And if the status is like pending or something, when this job is done running, it can check to see like, are there any icons that are pending and that are bigger? I think we can do a little bit of logic to say, are you bigger than your synchronous execution size? And if the answer is yes, then we go to the batch. If the answer is no, we can go to the service. And I feel like we could tune this a little bit. Maybe instead of create icon pixels, this is like init icon pixels, and have it return the pixels, and then the batch can call into that. And from our service perspective, we can do some synchronous or async in the, actually probably in the flow, right? To say, run this now or run this later. Or honestly, we just do it from icon service, right? We do it from here. So create icon pixels is either going to, we can make this even a little bit more elegant maybe. We just have the batch accept a list of pixels as as a property, right? So this has already happened. We return an iterable, which is that whole thing there. And I guess the question is, how big can a list be in Apex? Apex list size limit? There is not a defined limit for a size of a list, but is there a heap size situation? Sorry, I'm looking at this off screen. Let's bring it down here. There isn't one. There is a general limit on the heap size. So if we're doing so it's a heap size question for us next, because I think this will work. I don't know. Let's find out. So I'm going to pass in the pixels that I want it to process. And this is the world's most boringest batch job from there. And then what I'm going to do from here is determine if our this is where it gets interesting. We're not quite ready to build for uber scale here, but we can at least test this, right? And say if pixels dot size is less than DML dot, oh boy, hold on, limits, right? Limits dot get limit DML rows minus limits dot get DML rows. So it's 10,000 minus however many have been processed so far. So if we have that many pixels, if we're under that threshold, we can insert in real time. Otherwise, we can not. We can call our icon pixel batch. b.pixels equals pixels. Okay. So it'll do a size check for us, and if it's too big, it will go to async mode, and then we are going to run that. Now, this doesn't work very well if the pixels are here in mass, right? I'm sorry, icons. If I inserted 200 icons, this ain't gonna work. What did I break? b.pixels. Oh, variables not visible. Public. Let's take a quick look in our org for how. This is a scratch org that's not very. Doesn't have a lot of storage. So we have created 14,000 pixels so far, and that is 14% of our. Geez, are we going to have enough room for 14,000 is 14%. I'm not going to be able to go as big as I thought here even. I mean, this is obviously obnoxious and inefficient as it is, but 14,000, that's 2K, right? Is that right? 28 megs, 28 megs to kilobytes. What was it? 28 MB to KB is 28,000, yeah. So we are, yeah, we're storing, so 2K, if it's 2K per, I think we can only put 100,000 in here, which is still okay for us to test this. So we can, we just can't put that many records in here. Note to self, see if, can you make a scratch org? Salesforce scratch org more storage. $200 meg limit. No, that's the limit. Okay, well, coming full circle, we might only have one icon at a time anyway in this org. That's all right. Let's still want to build it. Let's just see if this works if we just go bigger, right? So what's 256 by 256? Or, yeah. That's 65,000. So we can test this with an icon that is 65,000 pixels. And hopefully that gets us doing what we want it to do. So let's go, I'm going to bring up a dev console so we can watch this a little bit. And I'm going to go create a new icon. Clone this one. So the other thing will be interesting is once these are generated, how does the Lightning component handle rendering it? Because 65,000 records is a lot to pull out. I don't know if Lightning is actually going to tolerate that much, those many results. We can't get more than 50,000 anyway, so we're going to have to retool our querying logic around getting the icons, or getting the pixels. Sorry, I keep using those two. I keep mixing it up. So getting the pixels out. But let's see what happens here. Here's our logs. And I'm going to click the button. Hypothetically, it's building that giant list of pixels for us right now. Which in and of itself may be a good reason to say, like, hey, let's do this async. So maybe do a quick math check when the component or when the icon is first saved to say, how big are you going to be? 256 by 256 says I'm going to be 65,000 pixels in surface area. Okay, let's create you async, queue you up, let this process. I'm starting to have doubts if this is going to work. Might just be too big. I don't really have a read on anything happening here. Oh. Batchable instance is too big. Batchable instance is too big. Interesting. I wonder what that means. I have never seen that error before. Batchable instance is too big. What's too big about it? If a batch class implements database.stateful, the instance state is stored in the database. At this time, we do a check the heap size. Yeah, okay. All right, that was pretty big. Let's see. 17 megs log file. We probably got too much heap going on. Let's see if we can see any I don't know if we're going to see any heap in here because it may. Okay, what kind of heap do we got going on here? Let's get all the way down here. May have just been the processing time. So then the question is, could we defer that pixel creation to within the batch and get ourselves some more time? Instance is too big. I think it's the heap size. And I therefore wonder if we can move our, close that guy. Can we move our creation into the start context? Do we get some more time? Can we buy ourselves some time here? So instead of testing this here, right, let's instead create icon pixels. Let's see. I'm just trying to think about how to wire this all together. I think I'm going to take one step back, and instead of using this service, let's just make a call. So we're gonna go back to give it the icon, right? So we're gonna pass it the icon instead. I'm just gonna do an execute anonymous on this to see it at work. We still need to do this. We're gonna move this into the start context, which should give us more batch or more heap to work with. So I pass it the icon. Let's make sure we do this is in front of here. This. The challenge with a batch is you need something to loop over. So we're hopefully going to be able to invent our own stuff to iterate over here now. So there's our scope. We return our pixels. That's what we want. Let's see how we do. That's the difference is if we were you know traditionally when you do a batch you do a query locator in here and then Salesforce is managing, you know, it's going and plucking those 200 or however many records per iteration of execute that is from the locator. But because we're doing our own iterable here, we're and wanting to tell the system that hey, here's everything that you need to process. That's a little bit bigger. Now, what we could also do, we always need something to count over. I could at least make a smaller list that's being iterated over that's like a list of, it could be a list of strings, it could be a list of, could be a list of lists, could be its own object that we're iterating over that just have the X and the Y. So literally the data structure that we're creating is smaller in that regard. But let's start here and see what comes of this, because I'm just going to call this, let's see. I'm just going to have this return so it doesn't do anything temporarily. I'm going to create that icon. It's not going to run this. We can take this out, I think. We'll just do insert pixels here. All right, so save this. So now I've short-circuited this call so that it doesn't do anything. It doesn't create any pixels when the icon is inserted. Oh, except I broke it. Where are we here? Icon service. Well, yeah, right. So we'll just comment all this out for now. Okay. I suppose I could have just commented it out in the invocable, but this is fine. Okay, so we've got that. So now I should be able to freely create a new icon. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's just clone this. We don't need to clone it. We can just create a new one. New icon. 256 by 256 icon. We're going to make it 256 by 256. And the default color is black. Okay. That should save immediately. All right. So now let's take this. We need to pass this an icon ultimately, but we can get away with icon I equals, let's make sure we select all the fields that we need for this. Oof, I can't type today. Select ID width, height from icon where ID equals hard-coded thing. Unit 1, okay. And we'll steal our code from over, oh darn it, I got rid of it. Here, undo and then redo. Let's steal this. Okay. And save that and call this. Okay. Oop. I'm going to put this in comments and then I'll just highlight it when we execute it. All right. So now we're going to pass this an icon instead of a pixel array. Icon equals I, and then execute the batch. So let's save that. I don't really need to save that, but just in case. Okay, and now let's run this. All right, it started up. Where's my... So let's see what happens, because it should... We can check in our org here. It should be spooling up in that start context. Icon pixel batch is holding. So that either means it's thinking about doing something, or it's given up on doing something, or something else. Still holding. While that's thinking about doing something, we can go take a look at some other stuff in this app. Let's go back to our other icon here. I'd like to make this look a little nicer, and it would be nice if instead of just coloring the text, if it actually maybe had like an icon or something off to the side that it would highlight. Also, I'd like to add it to the group and make it look pretty. I just tried to do this. It didn't like that at all. Let's try it. Let's do a variant on that, and we'll hide the label. Something happened. I saw some... Oh no! S-object row was retrieved without... Oh yeah, we need some more stuff. Alright, well that's good news, I suppose. Okay. We forgot to get default color out here. Width, height, default color. Let's clear our panel and try this again. So it was doing something. It wanted to work. Okay, fire it up again. Yeah, let's do a hidden label variant on that. I have a feeling I need to do a little hocus pocus on this input field. Let's see, is there something in SLDS? Like, I'm looking for a design component or something that like lets you basically, lets you hang an icon or a button before or after a input field. That would be nice. With icons. Icon on the left, icon on the right, icon and clear button, loading spinner, icon and clear button. What's this look like? So this is us building our own form element, and the input is actually here, and then there's a button after that, which so hypothetically we could do all this. Is there maybe, well, let's look at the other side of it. Is there a button that, and I should check out the component library and see if there's something, links that look like buttons, stateful, sizing, stretching. No. So our first option is to maybe hack at this approach a little bit. We can put an icon in there. Maybe we can just make it a square or something. There's got to be something in the icon library that we can use as a color and then actually colorize it with some style. All right, hey, our batch apex, I don't know if it did anything. Oh boy, I just opened a 17 megabyte file. Let's check our Apex jobs over here, see if it has anything to say. Oh, hang on, it's processing. Okay. It's still cooking. Is that right? 328. What's 328 times 200? 65,000. All right. So, and it's processed 1. Okay. Whew. I wonder if it's because of that heap size, right? It's just hauling around a huge data structure from one iteration to the next. There goes another one. I bet you that's it. I wonder if I made it stateful, if it would perform any better. There goes 2. All right, let's open up one of these and just see what, like there's nothing going on in here, right? So we're inserting 200 records and then it's moving on to the next one. I wonder if when we created this, when we create our pixel pile here, if I made this batch stateful and created a, well, I don't know if that would really matter because it's just going through the scope right now. So this is interesting because this is just like dying right now. Even though it's doing like absolutely nothing, it should be like just plowing through these records. There is a little bit of I guess there's some evaluation that's happening on the within each iteration, right? It's not really, we're not showing all that. I think when pixels get created, we check to see if they have a color, and it does so there is a flow that's running in here. It's not, I think it's here. It's not really showing us what's going on, but it's checking to see if the pixel needs a color or not. But boy, this is interesting. You know, it's definitely struggling. I think it's because of the heap size in each of these instances, and we don't really get any clarity. We don't get any visibility into that. It's telling us it's fine, but it is definitely not fine unless it truly takes that long to insert 200 records, but that seems crazy. There goes another one. So however large our list is, it must be passing that from across each iteration. So it definitely seems like an iterable is a lot slower than a this would be an interesting test, I guess, for another time. Let's see if an iterable is slower than a get query locator, which I think the answer is yes. In our weird case here, we're looking for something that would generate a whole bunch of records for us. And it seems like a batch may not end up working because, I mean, in order to make a bunch of records, I got to iterate over a bunch of records. So perhaps there's another way to do this. Maybe it's more efficient to run many batches against. So I was trying to think like, all right, with a 256 by 256, maybe I should actually just be creating like every batch should just be like 4 by 4. So then the heap size is smaller in each one, and then we can almost like check to see, you know, is that done yet? I wonder if we could do that with a queuable. Well, see, it doesn't matter. I mean, then we get into an efficiency problem on the other side, which is I can't just call batches like forever. I've only got 250,000 of those that I can run every day. And if either I'm creating 250,000 pixels individually across batches, or doing it with a queuable, or doing it with something else, but that won't work either. So we should use Salesforce functions. That's what we're gonna. So you truly you can't do that on. Oh hey, ooh Cray, hello. I'm so sorry I didn't see you in the chat earlier. Ukray asks, is there a Salesforce Twitch community? I've always looked, but you are the only Salesforce developer I've come across. I'm junior level, so watching experienced people helps a lot. I'm sorry, Ukray, I didn't see your chat but I just saw it, so which is why I'm reading it. I don't think there's much of a Salesforce community on Twitch either. There's a couple other people that have joined the chat or joined the stream, and they one person's got like CRM in their name, and a couple other people have shown up. So I don't think it's huge, but that's why we're trying to do what we're trying to do here, to bring the good word of Salesforce to the Twitch community. See if we can get people to show up. I'm delighted to have you here, and I'm happy to do weird stuff that you can. If you're junior level, you're gonna learn all the wrong things to do on the platform here today, and maybe you'll know what the right things are based on the wrong things that I'm doing. For example, this is exactly how not to create a batch job unless you want it to run as slow as humanly possible. So glad to have you. Thanks so much for coming, and I'll definitely follow you back after the episode. Speaking of episode, we started late today. I'm running a little bit late, and unfortunately I have to wrap it up because duty's on the home front call, and I'm outside of my streaming window. So I'm going to call it here. I'm going to just let this job keep running and find out how long it took to run. I think what we've learned is that you can really kill the heap size with a large enough iterable in your start execution or start method of a batch class. So we'll continue to noodle on maybe how to do this better. And I think signs are eventually going to point to it's tough. Like, we can't just, having the pixel as a record is super helpful. Like, we can do neat stuff without having to go crazy, like, maintain state and things like that. But in our Scratch org, we just don't have a ton of storage space. So I'm sure we can get around that. Thanks, Okray. Yeah, I love, subscribe, subscribe and like and all that stuff. And the system should holler at you when Twitch should holler at you when the stream starts. Be delighted to have you back, and maybe if you've got questions, I'm happy to try to help answer stuff too. This is supposed to be for a laugh and for some learning. So, I've been around the Salesforce block a couple of times, and I've been around a couple of times for the last, 17 years or something. So I learned all the wrong things to do, and would love to have you back and talk more. But I think with that, we're gonna wrap. I'm gonna ponder some other sinister ways to get around a batch class and build 250,000 pixel records without having records to iterate over. Maybe we will take a look at Salesforce functions. I've been looking for a good excuse to use that. I have no idea how to interact with it in the context of DX. Maybe I can figure that out between now and then, and we'll see if we can. It sure would be great to just issue a Salesforce functions call and say, here's an array, go make me a bunch of records and let it do the dirty work. More to come on that, I guess. Thanks for hanging out. Ukray, love to have you back, and we'll talk more